What's up, everybody? Good morning and welcome to this Sunday live stream edition. I'm AC with DFS Karma and Bet Karma. Today, we got an all-star cast of Jack and Sam with me today. Sam's already given me some shoulder shrugs. We're going to talk everything, start hopping in the chat room, season-long questions. Obviously, DFS, we'll talk props a little bit, and we'll definitely talk some betting. I have the live screens in front of me. If you guys are jumping in the chat room and you have multiple desktops, I suggest pulling up both dfskarma.com. You can kind of read a lot of our free content, check out the site. But in specific, this helps with everything we're talking about, season-long props, betting. If you go to betkarma.com, we have a number of free tools there. I mean, I'm staring at the trend screen, and that just gives us an idea of some of the totals we'll look at, some of the line movement. And it really helps for everything, like I said, under the sun, DFS, betting, props, and even season-long questions. So I'm going to go to the new king of the street here, Mr. Jack. Why don't you introduce yourself? Because you haven't been on at least the live stream edition. We do have like a loyal niche following that hops in every Sunday. I feel like year after year doing this, you're in specific definitely a lot more focused on season-long stuff. So we can address a lot of those questions in specific to you. We do have a lot of questions, man. So let me go to you. Like I said, introduce yourself a little bit. And then what are the injury news and notes early on this Sunday? Anything changing overnight that changes your outlook on things today with season-long stuff in specific?
Yeah, so as you said, I'm only covering really that season-long fantasy side. I do some dynasty as well. I'm not really focused on DFS, to be honest. I don't play a lot. I do some prop betting, things like that. But because I look so hyper specific at just that redraft side of things, I like to think that, it keeps me busy enough because there's plenty of stuff to talk about any given Sunday. In terms of early injury news or late, I guess, I saw it rolling last night where Teddy Bridgewater just got cleared to play. That was about midnight last night Eastern time. So he cleared concussion protocol. So for me, that bumps up all the Broncos pass catchers because we've seen that they've been more effective with Bridgewater this year than Locke last year, and even a little small sample with Locke last year, he looks like the same guy he did.
Jack, can I interrupt you? Is Sutton supposed to play or is he out?
He, as far as I know, he's supposed to play, but he had an ankle roll on Friday in practice and sat out the rest of practice. So even if he does play, I might expect a little less from him this week. So I'm bumping up Tim Patrick in my rankings this week. So I would put him in as like a solid wide receiver 2 if it's a full PPR league.
I assume. I guess, I don't know. I think would probably be the biggest bump because he's he's already getting a lot of, I don't know. I didn't look last week as much, but I know Teddy targets Fant at a pretty high clip, especially with all those guys being out. So I don't know. We also have the one question we have right now is the season long. They're asking about in the flex, did you play Pittman, Madison, or Damian Harris? I'm just going to answer for you. I assume if Cook is out, Madison's like the smash play in that spot versus the Lions.
Yeah, if Cook is out, all the reports are saying that he's going to play. But out of those options, like if we go into kickoff knowing at like 12:30 that they're all Cook's going to play, I think Pittman's the move there. He's got the highest target share out of those Colts pass catchers. He hasn't had any splash weeks yet. Like he's been like 13, 14, 15 points in full PPR. So he's been consistent. He hasn't wowed you, but he's definitely not losing you a week. And he has one of the highest target shares in the red zone for them. So eventually the touchdowns will come. It just depends on what week that comes. So I would definitely be playing Pittman if you've got him.
Yeah, and I will say, for both season long and DFS wise, I think sometimes we can overrate things. Damian Harris should have this big workload. The Texans suck. We all know that. But those injuries to somewhat of what I've been trolling Anthony about with the Browns, their O-line is so decimated right now. I think their top 4 guys are out. I'm not saying the Texans are that intimidating of a matchup, and he still could get 20, 25 touches, but I don't know. I will say, I don't know if you quote unquote would downgrade Damian Harris, but I wouldn't say it's a smash spot. And Anthony, you talk about trends. That Patriots line is moving down to a concerning level. It started at 10, and now it's at 7.5.
It's actually unbelievable. It's funny. Shout out to Dom. I'm looking actually at our Discord chat, which you can access at dfskarma.com. Hop in and talk to all of us, not just on Sundays, but honestly all throughout the week for all sports. And Dom made a bet. I'm scrolling up multiple days ago on that exact line. And yes, I'm now looking at the Bet Karma trends tool. To your point, it's actually laughable how much this line's moving. And if you're not in the thick of it, this is why, in my opinion, the trends tool makes life easier. Sam told you why. All the injuries, road game, short week, tough Monday night loss as well. But yeah, I mean, Dom had that at +9. It looks like it's down to +7 in some books actually now. I like that a lot.
What it's worth, like the Patriots will win this game. I just don't. They're just not going to win by like 17.
The NFL, man. I don't know.
I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be pretty low scoring.
The Browns. Yeah, the Browns are always so top notch. They never lose games.
So
I hope the Browns lose.
Yeah, I know you guys. You guys see me and repping the Browns. Let's go. I'll give my quick 30 seconds. I have a $500 bet here with Sam that I won't talk too long. I think it's the game of the week. Obviously, I really don't see any other games as game of the week this week from a real life.
The Bills and Chiefs.
Hey, I'm talking about the main.
What an uninteresting game.
Sunday night football is different.
Cowboys Giants. We get to watch Dak stuff. Are you kidding me? No, it's the best.
Well, America's team is actually the Browns, Sam. So get it straight. Listen, I think I said this on the cash process earlier this week.
You're the armpit
this game,
of the NFL.
I think this game's actually impossible to really judge. I think it could go so many different ways. It could be a shootout. It could be very low scoring. I actually like both defenses in DFS. I think they're both sneakily going under-owned in DFS, and they're not that expensive. I mean, I like Kareem Hunt a lot. I'm really overexposed to him. Of course, you could say the same thing for Nick Chubb. I prefer Nick Chubb on FanDuel. And for DFS purposes, I actually am 5 to 6x the field on Odell. I think he's a great pivot. You look at CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper. There's a bunch of guys in that like 6K range. And then there's Odell, who I think is going to go 3 to 4% own this week. And I get it. The Chargers want the teams to run the ball. But, the Browns, if they're going to win, they're going to come out slinging it in the first half and then run in the second half. So I like Odell a lot. But real life perspective, we are down our left tackle, 2 of them. So I think Joey Bosa is going to absolutely, potentially just dominate this game. So, I mean, this could be the Chargers, definitely game to lock down.
I will say that was not as insufferable as you normally are about the Browns. And I also will say, in terms of DFS, like Odell being super chalk last week and then Baker missing him on legitimately every throw, him being under 5% is intriguing. I will say I don't hate that play. I don't know. I think that – do you think that they'll go more run heavy given that Baker – I don't know. I give Baker a lot of shit too, but playing with a torn thumb, that's pretty badass. So,
and Jack, you can interject as well. Tell me if I'm right, wrong, or different. I think the only way the Browns win right now, I'm telling you straight up football-wise, they have to run 11 personnel. They have to have an extra tight end on the field to double down Joey Bosa on the left side since we're down to our left tackle. The only way we win is actually throwing in the first half. You have to get a lead against the Chargers. If you don't have a lead, you can't come back in this situation. That's the only way the Browns are going to win, which is why I kind of like Odell and even Kareem, because the Browns more than likely are going to be down. And if you want to draw Joey Bosa in, I think there's going to be several screens to Kareem Hunt. There kind of always is. He's our leading wide receiver on the team. Obviously we've been ravaged by injuries, but that's why I like both Kareem and Odell for several purposes. What do you think, Jack, on the showdown?
I'm hesitant on it in general because if you look at the past couple games of the Chargers, they've had good matchups. They win against the Raiders and against the Chiefs, win against the Cowboys, right? All these the Raiders now look like a higher powered offense than they ever have with their air yards, but they've gone and kind of flipped the script on all these teams, right? The Raiders, I think Carr was throwing for over 400 yards each game before that. And then they flipped the script on him and tried to make him run heavy, tried to make him run against them and stopped them. And then the Chiefs, they controlled the clock. And the Cowboys, the point total was under 40 points. And Dak barely got any passing yards. So I think it's interesting because even when they've gone against these strong rushing attack teams, they've forced them to throw. And the throwing hasn't gone that well, and vice versa. So I think the Chargers are the case where they're both in good ends. They're good rushing defense and they're good passing defense, so they can play you each way. So I think even if the Browns do come out pass heavy, I'm not super confident in it because Baker does have the injured arm, right? That plays into it, and that's why he's kind of looked off the last couple of weeks. But if they go rush heavy, which is what they're probably expecting, the Chargers have the guys to stop it. I think I probably like Hunt more than Chubb this week, to be honest with you, because I have a feeling the Browns are going to get down a score or two and they're going to have to throw. And it's not that Chubb can't catch passes. We know that. But we know that the Browns like to use Hunt more for that skill set. So I probably like Hunt a little more. I'm still not crazy about OBJ because it's always, who else are they going to throw to, right? And then Baker throws to him, and it hasn't connected.
The squeaky wheel times 1,000. I mean, Odell's been a dumpster fire really in Cleveland in general. Just he's a crybaby behind the scenes from a lot of people I know, and I think this is the squeaky wheel game. Shout out for the record before we move on. I have to say this for the people that troll me. And my Browns, my Baker love, yes, he's on my back wall there. I was at his first game for the W. Here's the narrative this week, guys. I did physically bump into Baker at the grocery store on Monday. And, yes, I was getting red. I was blushing. I told my wife, should I go ask to get a selfie? I ultimately decided not to. However, as we kept shopping, we actually ended up in the same aisle one-on-one. And I kind of froze up a little bit. And as I would walk by, I was just like, what's up, Baker? And he just gave me the head nod. So, there's that aspect. There's that aspect going this week.
Sorry, anyone watching before you walk off will change. I mean, this isn't.
That's the story of all time.
So, like I can't imagine, what you ate. It's it's just sad.
Does that mean buy his own groceries?
He was with his wife.
Exactly.
Yes, he was buying his own groceries. It was.
What is
he's humble.
Going? Yeah.
Dude. Yeah, he's the man. Hey, let's move on real quick. Sam, here's a question for you before we start jumping into the chat. My two takes on this slate, besides we talked about the fun game, Green Bay, Cincinnati, I think is an absolute shootout. I mean, we all know Tennessee, Jacksonville, both running backs are just locks, but I really think AJ Brown is actually an amazing leverage play today, and I don't think he's gonna be that high owned. And then yes, we've talked, Sam, you and I in specific, just play all the Vikings. I still like DeAndre Swift a lot, but that's kind of like the slate in general. I mean, there's definitely some pivots across the slate for DFS, but we can get into those in the chat room.
Yeah, I think this is. Yeah, I see a couple here, and I will answer those ones. Sorry, whoever typed this second AC doesn't shut up. But my thing the only thing I quote unquote worry about. I think that I could see one of most likely the Bengals. That Bengals stack being the one that everyone calls the low-owned leverage stack. Everyone does it. I'm not saying I don't dislike. I'm not saying I dislike. I will probably have I think for me it'd be Burrow, Higgins, Jamar Chase, and then with Devontae Adams, I get it. I'm not saying I like this play more, but the play there is so obvious in that you just play Aaron Jones over Devontae Adams. I'm not saying Devontae Adams is a bad play, but he does have those 40-point ceiling games. You saw it was at week 1 or 2, whatever. The other thing I will say is the Titans, I don't see that happening as much, but in my opinion, play a stack, which I know I will absolutely have this, is playing Tannehill with Derrick Henry and AJ Brown. There's a lot of trends that show me when they all smash, but my main thing there is I get everyone's obsessed with LaVisca, and I get it. He's a stud, and Chark is out, but run it back with Marvin Jones, because Marvin Jones is still the wide receiver 1 on that team, despite LaVisca being cheap. I get it. But if Marvin Jones, I'm looking at it right now. LaVisca, say just making up numbers, say LaVisca is going to be 20% owned and Marvin's going to be 5% owned. Are we really saying LaVisca is 4 times as much as likely to, smash compared to Marvin Jones? No, that's ridiculous. And so you still have the same game stack and leverage, but you're not eating all the chalk. And so that's kind of my overall thoughts on that. I would say, thank you, Ricky. And then my other one would be, I just think that maybe I'm wrong. I just am out of touch on this one. Are people really not playing a Bucs stack? Are we so obsessed with Fournette that we're ignoring that the Bucs throw at the second highest rate in the entire league? What? I don't understand.
Of everything
Miami corner,
that is interesting. Actually, the Tampa Bay stack with the receivers.
Oh. That will be probably my main lineup, because it's he spreads the ball, but I get everyone's going to go to Antonio Brown. He's super underpriced. I think the way better play you should see Xavier Howard is Mike Evans and Godwin. If you want to get really weird, you can make Brait one of the plays. I'm not recommending that. I'm just saying. But then, I have talked to everyone insufferably. I think Mike Gesicki might be my favorite play on the slate. Devontae Parker, I love. So yeah, I just think like I don't know. I mean, okay, Andy, you love eating all the chalk. If you were making 5 lineups, how many would you have Derrick Henry in?
Well, I have 100 lineups right now. I'm pulling up on my screen. Shout out to the optimizer product that you can access on dfskarma.com. Out of my 100 lineups, 50% on the dot are Derrick Henry. That's a lot. I mean, I'm going 2x the field because
no, and you have to. I mean, he might be 30% owned. I mean, I get it. The one thing I'll say with regards to your point, I like James Robinson. I just worry that Urban Meyer is such an idiot that if Hyde's probably active,
I know,
he's just going to use.
He's
100%
right.
Like,
you're 100% right on that. As soon as Hyde's active, he's gonna go into the snap share.
I know. It's just what I mean, and we all know it makes no sense, but it is what it is. Urban Meyer's. I mean, he's now he's a riot. Now I'm like a fan of his because
he's a meme.
But
Urban's
yeah, totally. Now he's getting so much buzz. He's getting like the exact amount of marketing. But yeah, that's my overall thoughts. I will say, I mean,
start bringing the questions.
I always think, yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of anything else that I'm like. I think with all the value, I would shy away from. I think I make this mistake a lot, and there's a lot of these like super punts, like the Ricky Seals-Jones and Ross Dwelly and all those things. If you're playing those guys, make sure to play them as part of a stack. It's really not smart to play them as a one-off. I get it. You're trying to save money, but if you're playing Dallas, I get CeeDee Lamb and Amari are studs, but play Dalton Schultz over one of them, and all of a sudden do that. I mean, in my opinion, don't play Kadarius Toney as a one-off. That makes no sense to me. I mean, that's just like kind of.
I am playing him in cash. Before we start getting into questions, seriously, bring the questions. Season-long props, betting, whatever. Start firing away. We actually, ironically, usually always start off the pod with like our normal type main lineup cash build. Sam, I'll ask you really quick. I think there's only 2 ways to go. I mean, obviously in this slate, it's kind of Trey Lance and whatever your roster ends up being somewhat chalky, but I'm going the Daniel Jones route. You mentioned Tony. I'm playing obviously chalk Evan Ingram. I just think that, if I'm bringing back with CD, like why not? I mean, just give me the whole game.
No, I get
if somehow it fails, it fails. But that's the route I'm going. What about you?
I get the Daniel Jones in cash. I do think it's funny. I actually was reading this, and I completely agree. It's funny. I feel like a couple weeks ago, everyone's like, oh, Daniel Jones, Giants turnover machine. And now no one wants to play the Cowboys defense, which everyone's talking about is pretty good. So I think the Cowboys defense in tournaments are interesting if we get the Daniel Jones that we've become accustomed to a lot, where he just is an absolute turnover machine. He takes a lot of sacks, but I'm not saying that's like a smash. But anyway, I'll give this one to Jack. PPR question. Would you go Galladay or Laviska? I think that's kind of interesting one, actually.
Honestly, I lean Laviska, and that might seem hot takey.
It's so funny. Remember how good Galladay used?
It might seem a little hot takey, but Galladay has not had that smash game yet, right? And he's had games where pretty much every other pass catcher's out of the lineup. So if he can't do it then, I don't think he's going to do it against Dallas, where that defense is actually a lot better than people think it is this year. They've limited passing yards. They have completely flipped from what they were last year, because everyone thought, Dallas will give up 35 a game. They'll throw for 500 yards a game, and that has not been the case. They've been super run heavy. Their defense has controlled everything. So I think I lean Laviska because I think that game's got a better game script. And I also think he'll probably have a higher target share than Galladay will. And Galladay's perennially banged up, so he's always got something lingering. I lean a fully healthy Laviska because we know that we saw last week he finally had some high A-dot throws, and they scheme up plays for him like a Deebo Samuel type. So I lean Laviska.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Oh, someone. Okay, yeah, he did. Galladay did have a good game last week. I will say, I don't know. I just think that Diggs. I mean, we've seen how good Diggs. I mean, I don't know if Diggs would shadow him, but that will be his main coverage is Diggs, and we've seen this guy is shutting a lot of people down. So, Denver game, could Williams see an extended work well with Gordon banged up? Yeah, I mean, I'm the wrong person to ask. I hate Melvin Gordon. I don't understand why any team has him. And Javonte Williams already shown that he's better, but I don't know, dude. I mean, my thing is, I'll admit, I made a bad bet because I bet on the Steelers points. It's a bad bet because the Steelers suck. However, they are at home, and their defense is not like terrible. They just have a terrible offensive line. Big Ben is, I don't know what to even call him. He's one of the worst in the league. But
Noodle arm.
I could see Williams getting more work. I mean, I don't know. I mean, season-long perspective, do you have interest in Javonte Williams like for the rest of the season, or is it kind of just too hard with Gordon there?
No, I do. When I talked in preseason about Javonte, as soon as he went to the Broncos, I said you have to be patient. And it was the same case with most of these rookie running backs and rookie wide receivers. What happens is we usually see around week 6 or after the team's bye week, when they come out of that bye week, that rookie usually has an expanded role. So Javonte Williams is the type of guy right now, if I've got the room on my bench and I'm, like 2-2 or 3-1 type of team, I'm going and trading for him because the blow up is coming eventually. Right. Gordon's already dealing with injuries. I don't think he's necessarily going to have more of a workload this week. They've split it 50-50 down the middle. And this is the last year of Gordon's contract. So I'm convinced what's going on is they're just running him into the ground while they're paying him a bunch of money. And then after that, they're not going to care. So Javonte's a buy low for me because if and when like Gordon gets hurt worse, or B, he takes over the backfield, even if it's 60-70% clip, he's a league winner type of guy to end the season. It's like kind of like Jonathan Taylor last year. Even though Mack went down, Taylor had a slow start to the season because Hines was in there and all of that garbage. But then he had the last 6 weeks of the year where he just absolutely smashed and won people entire league. So I like him a lot.
This is probably a bad take. I feel like if Melvin Gordon had not had that 70-yard run in week 1, like no one would care about Melvin Gordon.
No, that's literally.
It's like, anyway, Robbie Anderson. I mean, I'm going to keep losing money. The thing is about Robbie Anderson, like, okay, DJ Moore is clearly a man. That's Darren's favorite target. That's not going to change per se. Robbie Anderson, though, is just that guy where, Anthony, you would agree with this. It's like in any week, he has the potential to put up 30 points on like 4 catches. It's just not going to happen that often. But the week it does happen, he will be 3% owned. And that's just he will pop off. It's just a matter of if he gets the matchup. I mean, his targets are not great. His air yards are better than you would think. I mean, again, it's just not to bury the lead that DJ Moore is absolutely the man in that offense. And when Christian McCaffrey comes back, that's a bigger problem for Robbie Anderson. But I think he's worth a shot. If you're playing maybe 10 plus lineups, I don't know if I'd really have him like a 3 max. Seals Jones, I don't know. I mean, cash, I guess. I mean, I was told this in Discord last night, guys. Ross Dwelley is the most efficient player in the NFL this year. He has 1 catch for 1 touchdown. I don't know how you beat that efficiency. He literally hasn't caught a pass, hasn't scored. I think Dwelley actually will be used a little more than people think. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know if Jack, if you have any season-long perspective on Ross Dwelley. I don't know if anyone has any actual takes on Ross Dwelley, but
there's not a lot out there because there's not enough data to really make a solid take on it. So I'm not gonna project, super high efficiency touchdowns because it's not a sticky stat by any means. Yeah,
I mean, I'd say like from a DFS perspective, I mean, I think he's a fine punt and cash. Seals Jones probably is the same thing. But like obviously, I have literally no interest in them in tournaments unless I'm like stacking up, the 49ers or Arizona.
I'm actually playing some Brandon Ayuk in DFS.
Dude, I don't know what is going on with Ayuk. Does Shanahan just hate him? Or like, what's the problem?
Sam, DFS though. You got to get him though when he's 2-3% owned, and then you know the game. I mean, season long. It's probably a difficult question right now.
But here's the concerning thing is last week. If you look at the snap shares and you look at the targets, as soon as Trey Lance came in the game, Ayuk didn't get targeted. It was all Deebo Samuel. It was like he had a stupid high target share.
No, you're right. You're right.
But the only counterpoint to it is Kittle is doubtful this week. He's probably not going to play, right? So there is a range of outcomes out there. He's out. Okay. So range of outcomes where Ayuk takes some of those targets. He doesn't need a lot to do a lot, right? We saw him last year and what his potential is and what his talent is. So there's a real case scenario where Ayuk does bounce back because they just have to throw to somebody else. You can't throw to Deebo 25 times a game. It's just not going to work. He'll get injured.
He's only 4.5K on DraftKings. I kept looking at that price. I know. I get it, but man,
price like 45. That's.
I think it's an amazing leverage play. Making multiple lineups, MME. 5 to 8%. That's all you need to go 4x a field.
With regard to Laviska versus Marvin Jones, I laid it out earlier. I'm not sure if you're here, but I mean, Chenault, I agree, is probably the cash play. I just think Marvin Jones is the absolute like leverage if you're stacking that game. I just think he has the exact same ceiling or higher, and he'll be a quarter of the ownership. So that's just my opinion. Small field single entry, Trey Lance naked with big three wide receivers. Yeah, I mean, I think that'll be not like popular. I think that'll be not. I don't know. Okay, Trey Lance, I get the cash thing. Yeah, he had 20 points last half. But like rookie making his first start, Cardinals defense is not that bad. I mean, there are a lot of routes to failure here in terms of like tournaments. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Jack, I don't know if you have an opinion. I don't know Trey Lance well enough, so I don't like. I just don't. I know he's a great runner. I just don't know enough.
Yeah, so he was. In terms of like dynasty redraft, all of that, he was my QB2 coming out of this class. Obviously, T-Law ahead of him. But the thing about Lance is I always viewed him as a Cam Newton type of player, like just with a better arm. Honestly, not refined yet, but he has better arm talent. So I always thought if he's going to take the field year one, he was going to be utilized like Newton in that rookie year where he ran a ton. I think what we're going to see is something similar to a Lamar Jackson type of offense. I think we're going to see a lot of RPOs with him. And the 49ers offense is going to look different than it does with Jimmy G. I think that they're going to scheme stuff. We're going to see QB dives. We're going to see pitches. Like it's going to be weird, but I understand that upside because, you know, he doesn't have to throw a lot. He doesn't have to throw well even for him to smash. But like you said, Arizona defense is good. Huh?
Yeah. Their pass rush is pretty good. I mean, I think they have, I don't know. I mean, I mean, it's just total box score watching. It wasn't like Lance was elite throwing last week. I'm not saying he was like disaster, but I mean, he was like 50% completion. So I don't know. I'm just saying in tournaments, I have hesitation if he's going to be owned a lot. I mean, would you where would you start Lance over, you know, kind of like, would you put him in like the top 12 quarterbacks this week in season long just because of his rushing upside? Or because like, I don't know that one. I don't know if that's the play or not. I have no idea.
I would pardon the background noise, but I would just because the rushing, like that's why I always argue with the Konami code quarterback, and that's why I talked up Jalen Hurts all off season because he didn't have to be a great thrower to smash. He's like the QB 4 or 5 right now, right? So I understand that, you know, he did 20 points in one half. What can he do in a full game? I'm not expecting him to go like 50 points, and we have to realize that now they have a half of tape to scheme against him and to study up. So it's going to be harder, just like the tantalizing thing of like, imagine when Justin Fields gets the field full time. And then the first time he got on the field full time, he had no rushes. He had a terrible passing day because they could had some tape on him. It's not going to be that with this because Shanahan's a better offensive coordinator than Nagy. I don't think that's a hot take. So I think he'll be better, but the Cardinals D is no slouch anymore.
Yeah. I actually
look at the line movement in that game too. I mean, that's kind of what is like really. It's not a huge reason why it got me off Trey and Cash, but I mean, it's down, 4.5 points in some books. So,
is Saquon going under-owned? Under-owned? No,
I don't think so. I think he's going about.
No, I don't think under-owned. He's not going to be like mega chalk. I think he's a great play, but I think that people will run it back in a Dallas stack like I probably would with him just because I just trust his usage so much more than the likes of a man named Kadarius or Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram gets the volume, but Evan Ingram is like bad at football. That's my thought.
Sam,
Max Williams or Gesicki?
Go ahead.
What? Oh, Max Williams or Gesicki? I think those are two completely different plays. I actually think Max Williams is really interesting in an Arizona stack. I know Matt loves him, which I think is funny. I don't know. I'm too biased. I think Gesicki is such a smash play. I wrote up in my column this week. I mean, I didn't even realize this. I was reading one of the guys from Pro Football Focus. I mean, he legitimately is a wide receiver with tight end eligibility. Like we say that about some guys. Like the fact that he's lined up 9 total times this season as like inline tight end, and Taysom Hill is lined up 24 times. I mean, what else do you know? And that's insane. And that's been Brissett's favorite target. So I like him a lot. But Max Williams, I think, is interesting because I think an Arizona stack will go under-owned as always. I think Hopkins, you should keep playing because he will have a blow-up game, just a matter of when. And having, Max Williams is running a lot of routes over someone like Ronda Moore, who's a stud, but is not playing a ton of snaps. Christian Kirk, I don't know. I don't know. But, yeah, I like them both.
Man, it's funny you bring up Hopkins. I was just looking at him in the projections portal, which, again, you can access at dfskarma.com. And shout out to Sam. These projections are unbelievable. Color coded, it makes everything so user friendly to build a cash lineup, and then also looking for leverage. And as you guys were talking, I was just going through the ownership percentage column in wide receiver, because that's a more volatile position. And I just did a double take looking at DeAndre Hopkins. We have him projected as basically our fifth, highest in projected points. But the amount of leverage you have with him projecting at only 4% owned, just like you said, Sam, one of these slates, he's going to erupt for 45 points, and 5% of people are going to own DeAndre Hopkins.
Well, it's because like the view, I get it. His air yard share is around like 25%, which like in general is like not low, but then you compare it to like Justin Jefferson and Devontae Adams and Debo and all these other people, and it's like seems ridiculous. But Kyler just been spreading the ball. But Hopkins, we know his talent level, and it's also crazy to me because it's just everyone is going to play Adams, and I get it. But like we have so many top receivers off the slate, you would think that people would own DeAndre, but they don't. It's kind of like Ben and I talk about this every week, like. Every single week, everyone talks about how Kyler Murray is one of the best quarterbacks of the entire week, and then no one plays him. Literally, he will be 5% again. Start Robbie or Schultz at flex. I have Darnold as my QB 0.5 PPR. It's kind of crazy. That's an actual legit question. Jack, you know way more than me. I would consider Schultz, to be totally honest.
I'd play Schultz. I'd play Schultz. He's got the higher target share than Robbie. Robbie's target share has rebounded a little bit from his abysmal 6 or 7% it was week one. But Schultz is obviously an integral part of the offense. And since it's low passing volume and he's got the higher target share, I lean Schultz. And I don't think stacking with Darnold is necessarily a necessity there, because if he doesn't target him a lot, then what's the point? And Darnold's been converting a lot of his touchdowns by running it in. So doesn't matter too much.
Not to mention, Darnold is the best rushing quarterback in the entire league.
No, he's not. Those are not going to hold.
I know. Feel all tight ends versus Jags. Yeah, for some reason, I really like Anthony Firkser as a player, even though he's not.
You love Firkser.
I think I don't know. First of all, his name is ridiculous, so I have to like that reason. But then also, I think he makes if you're going to do the Titans passing attack, play. I don't hate that as a leverage play. Is playing him, AJ Brown, if people own, and then Firkser, and then whoever on the. I don't think that's bad. I'm not saying that's a lock, but I like it. Adams or DJ Moore. Okay. The only case I can make for DJ Moore is that if you're playing a really, really chalk lineup, maybe DJ Moore will be slightly less chalk, but I don't know if I can. Do you guys have any argument for why you would not play Adams? I don't.
No, not against the Bengals. And Green Bay just put Jair Alexander on IR, so their secondary is toast. I think Kevin King might be the cornerback one now.
It's crazy.
He's like their one good. He's like their one good guy, and he is a shutdown.
He's the only good corner.
That's a serious problem. One of the wideouts in the Cardinals game. Yeah, we just talked about that. Okay. First of all, I cannot play AJ Green. I don't care that his targets. He plays like he's the Zach Ertz of wide receiver. He just catches it and falls down. I get it, but even though it's much more fragile and it's not as it's way more boom bust, I would play Kirk or Ronda Moore over AJ Green, to be totally honest. Maybe that's a bad. I don't know.
From DFS, you know best on that, but from a season long perspective, I would be putting AJ Green in the lineup. It's full PPR, I assume, because he's had the consistent target share. He's obviously a part of the offense. Ron Dale, I put him on my sits this week in terms of season long, just because at this point he's that boom bust flex play, and the peripherals were there early on. The first 2 weeks where he smashed. He didn't have a lot of usage. He got 40% of snaps and low target share. He was just hitting on all of that stuff. So the cliff was coming at some point if he didn't get more involved. And the volume hasn't gone up a significant amount. So until it does, if it does, like if an AJ Green or Christian Kirk injury happens, then I'd be way more interested. But obviously, you know, from DFS side, the prices would adjust if that were the case.
Yeah, Ronda Moore seems like a really difficult season-long recommendation. Just in general, I mean, like, yeah, he can go for 100 yards on 3 catches, but he can also go for no yards.
Yeah, good luck guessing which game is which.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, we know his snap share is low, but it doesn't mean, D Smith or D Hop? Hopkins.
Hopkins. Don't sit Hopkins. The second you sit Hopkins is the second he'll bite you in the butt.
That has been, I've been burned by that.
Can't sit Hopkins.
I was a Hopkins hater for a while until I realized I was too dumb to realize that he was on a bad team. And like Watson's good, but I don't get him the ball. Who do you guys like as mid-tier running back for tournaments? Anthony, who would you say are your, I don't know, let's go like favorite 3 that are not, you know, Derrick Henry?
Favorite 3 running backs?
Yeah, I mean 2 to 3, maybe let's go like between 7 to 5, and not. Don't say Fournette. Don't say Fournette.
I'm not saying Fournette. Listen, I'm sticking with one guy through thick and thin, even though there's an injury tag. But I love DeAndre Swift this week in PPR formats. Obviously, DraftKings, I guess we're talking. He's one of my highest conviction plays of the entire slate in DFS. I don't think I'm extremely overweight. I mean, 25%. I feel like even though we're projecting him at Karma for, about 13%. So I'm about 2x the field. I really like Kareem Hunt. And honestly, it's not a freaking bias thing. It's funny. As you guys were just talking, I was going through our top props at betkarma.com. This is actually our premium tool. And a lot of this is the simulations that Sam has put together on the back end. And ironically enough, one of our top props, an A+ grade of the entire slate, is Kareem Hunt's projected reception yards. I love seeing it because the markets have him about 18.5 yards, and we're projecting him for closer to 27. And that's going to correlate to more catches as well. So again, DraftKings-wise, Kareem Hunt, who's kind of in that same weird price point, 5,800 is Damian Williams and some of those other guys. Nobody's going to play him. And then I guess my third one, a third one would probably be, I don't know if it's a hot take, but you mentioned it out the gate, Sam. It's not a hot take. I'm 4x the field on Aaron Jones, and it's a leverage play. I like the over in that game as is. I don't get DFS.
Never. Always overpriced. No one ever plays him because he's always way too expensive.
Ironically, his price tag seems fair this week. I mean, to me, it wasn't even like that egregious. So we're projecting Aaron Jones in the single digits. I mean, he's my second highest owned running back out of 100 lineups right now. So,
I would say, people just are. It's really tough to separate them. I mean, I talk about. I'm not even saying like in an arrogant way, but like Najee Harris. I don't care how bad the offensive line is and how bad Big Ben is. No one is getting. He's getting like almost more usage than like a CMC. I mean, it's absolutely insane.
It's ridiculous.
His floor, I think, is so high. I love Najee Harris. I'm going to keep playing him all the time.
I wanted to play him in cash, man. I really did. I just really didn't like my final lineup. But he's our third projected Karma value. I'm looking at running backs on the projections portal every week. The data does the work for you guys. Like to Sam's point, it's not lying. Najee Harris every week is a top 3 value play. Other
guy, this is a complete leverage off the chalk, which is like you're still going to exit the game. I mean, people are talking about how the Cowboys are going so run heavy, but then everyone's stacking the Cowboys pass. I mean, Zeke is going to be not unowned, but he'll be like 10% owned because for no reason. But I mean, I think people own Barkley, people own Najee, people will drop down to these James Robinson and everything like that. But Zeke, I don't care if Tony Pollard's there. They're both effective, and Zeke, I think, is the absolute like still access to that game, but probably carries a ceiling similar to that of these top price guys. And the Giants have been destroyed by running backs. So
guys, I'm laughing right now because I just realized Cordell Patterson actually is the kickoff returner, and he just received a kickoff like in the 108-yard line marker. I mean, he only got it back to the 20, but he doesn't give a fuck. Like he's just going to play every position.
And he already got concussed in this game. He already got the concussion protocol, and he went out, came back in. Real quick, Sam, Devontae Parker just got declared out.
I just saw that. Wow, and they have Gesicki in every single lineup.
Yeah, Gesicki is a smash. If you want to, I mean, there's
Wow.
no one else to
I
really
might
throw
play
a
him.
dart on besides like Preston Williams. When I remember that hype train was a thing.
Yeah.
He's still
Yep,
there.
I mean, Jalen Waddle is not a bad play. I just think Gesicki's role is so. The only thing I'll say, this is super like risky, especially with Trey Lance, but like Eli Mitchell is 5,200. No one will play him, and the 49ers are obsessed with him. You can say but like, did you see his usage before he got hurt?
I don't think it's a terrible play at all.
I just can't trust
for some reason hates Trey Sermon. We don't know why, but he does not like him.
He does.
Well, and the thing is people have asked about Trey Sermon all week, and the rule with Shanahan is the second you think he's going to do something, the second you think you can predict it, you just flip it on its head, and that's probably what he's going to do. Maybe spice some random guy he picks up off the street, though, because that's always a probability. So I'm fine with Mitchell. I think was the concerning thing with Sermon last week is he had no catches. I talked about this a little bit and got some flack for it, but I said like he's Damian Harris to me if he doesn't fall in the end zone or if he doesn't get that pass catching work. 'Cause he had like 19 carries for 82 yards or something. Like it was fine, but from a season long perspective, do you want your RB2 to have 8 points? No, like probably gonna lose you a week. So I'm fine with Mitchell because they use him in the passing game.
All right, we have a bunch here that I just read missed.
10 minutes. 10 minutes left, guys. 10 minutes. Fire away, rapid fire questions. We'll get through them.
Antonio Brown or T. Higgins? I actually think T. Higgins is a better play.
Ooh, I actually disagree. I go Antonio Brown there, man. I think you got to go Antonio Brown. I think, with Xavier Howard probably locked on Mike Evans. I think AB is going to shine.
Antonio Brown only played like 50% of the snaps last week, and that was.
I don't think it matters.
I think it does.
What do you think, Jack? What do you think, Jack, on that one? I think that's a good question.
I lean Higgins personally. He was pretty close to shooting up last week. And I think he's probably going to have the higher target share. I think he neutralizes Boyd a little bit. I'm curious to see what Jamar Chase does with Higgins fully back in the lineup because he's obviously had that high touchdown clip. But like I said about that game, I think it's going to be a shootout. And with the Packers secondary having nobody with a pulse back there, I'd be fine playing all of them. But I do like Higgins as that kind of, I guess he's not contrarian, but he's not the popular pick with Jamar out there now.
Robbie Anderson, Mike Williams, Mike Evans, Josh Jacobs leverage play. Yeah, no one's going to own Mike Evans for some reason. And same with Mike Williams. Mike Williams, like I prefer Keenan, but like after one bad game, despite Mike Williams being a monster this year and being more expensive, Mike Williams might be under 5% owned. Josh Jacobs, I'm too biased. I think he sucks ass, but people still want to run him into the ground. So I don't know. I mean, leverage wise, yeah, he will not be owned because he stinks. But like, I don't know.
He's got a bad matchup this week too against the Bears. They should look to pass a lot because the Bears secondary is worse than the Bears
pass offense is ass. Yeah, they have a great run D. Kamara, Scary Terry. I mean, yeah, that's an absolute goats. No one is going to play Kamara, me included, because I'm a fish. But like, it is funny that Kamara still has a mega ceiling. Even, I mean, I think it was Drew Dinkmeyer made a good point. He's like, yeah, Kamara's not catching passes, which sucks. But like, what has Derrick Henry been doing the last couple of years without catching passes? Like, absolutely popping off. And Terry McLaurin, I mean, I don't need to tell anyone how good he is. Damian Williams with Ruggs. Okay, I get the Damian Williams play in terms of usage. I do not think he's that a smash of a play as everyone thinks. In my,
I agree. I actually agree there, man. What do you think, Jack, about Damian Williams? I got a little scary trepidation.
He's on my start of the week because we've seen from the Bears that when they have a preferred guy, they're going to use him and they use him in the pass catching role. Everyone wants this, Khalil Herbert little hype train that's gained steam, but they brought Damian Williams in. He got the main usage. He's fine. He's had a thigh bruise, I think, but he's fine.
Yep.
The Raiders' run D isn't that good. And if we think that the Bears get down, let's say the Raiders pop off in the passing game again, which they could, then Damian Williams becomes a check down back. I know the concern is there with Fields starting because rushing quarterbacks kind of neutralize that running back a little bit, but I think he's as good as a play as you're going to get.
I think it's great though. Like Jack's point is exactly right, but I think it's why it's so different in season long compared to DFS. Like I think in DFS, if he's going to be 20% owned, that's such an easy fade to me.
Yeah, that's
that being
fine.
said,
I get that.
I did tag Jack earlier in the week to ask him how much of my free agency budget I should spend to make sure I have him because I don't have a running back. So I do hope he does well, but not well enough.
Yeah. Hey, while you're going through those questions, just a couple of things real quick that are popping in the optimizer. Just curious your guys' thoughts. Like, I'm tired of seeing Chuba Hubbard freaking pop, but he kind of like he keeps coming up in lineups. Like, do you guys have any thoughts on him this week? I mean, again, he is. I don't know. He'll be in a few of my MME lineups, but Kenneth Gainwell's continuing to pop up week after week in the simulator. Again, these are guys that like nobody will own, but if you make 50 lineups, 100 lineups, you have the exposure to 3, 4, 5 of them.
I don't know your thought about this from a seasonal perspective. I think this is so interesting. I used to be guilty of it too. There are certain teams, I think, every year where historically, like Steelers, Ravens, Eagles, it's like, oh, good defense, always a great defense team. This Eagles defense sucks ass, at least from the passing point. I think their defensive line is still strong, and so that's why. Oh, I am. Are you kidding me? No, I'm playing it too because Darnold takes sacks.
Defense
no, their
doesn't
D-line
matter, dude. Defense doesn't matter in DFS. Come on.
But I'm just saying, I think it's interesting. Like, that's how I view, like, for instance, I think a better example, like the Ravens this year, I think their defense is horrible and they have a lot of injuries. But historically, it's always like, well, that Ravens D. And so, because people for some reason still think that Ray Lewis is on the team. And so I just think that it's like they're beatable in ways, but I don't think it's on the ground. I mean, I think if Darnold is smart, I mean, they should be throwing to DJ Moore literally the entire game.
I mean, we'll see. My only concerns about Hubbard is that CMC has practice. If he's active in any capacity, I probably don't want Hubbard because odds are, that would mix it up too much. It's the same thing I have with Mixon this week. Like, people want to play Mixon, and I say, well, I can't play Mixon because all the reports have been that even if he is active, it'll be limited workload committee, which is the last thing you want in either DFS or season long.
Kamara and Hunt or Henry and Pollard?
Kamara and Hunt for me.
I don't know if that's season long or DFS. Yeah, I agree. I don't know which it's at, but yeah. Waddle. Yeah, I mean, I think Waddle gets a bump with Parker out. It sucks that news came out so early because Waddle will probably get a bump. I still much prefer Gesicki. I'm not saying Waddle's bad. I just think stardom sit-ems for you, Jack. Herbert versus the Browns or Darnold versus Philly. That's easy for me. Actually, not that easy, but
for me, it's Herbert.
Dude. I mean, aren't the Browns number 1 in rush DVOA and their passes? They're a good pass, but I mean, there isn't. What's his name is out. I mean, they have 2 cornerbacks out, don't they?
I think so. I just lean Herbert because I mean, Herbert in any kind of matchup is going to be fine. I think he's the safer play. And like I've said to everyone with Darnold, these rushing touchdowns are not going to keep up. He's on pace for like 17 rushing touchdowns. And 4 of them have come over the last 2 games. So it's not going to keep up. It's going to trend the other way at some point. He'll regress to the mean. So not necessarily that's this week, but I go Herbert.
Favorite 1 p.m. QB on FanDuel. Trying to get this not at 1. I mean, I guess I would. I mean, I don't know if it's tournaments or cash. I still think Kirk Cousins is super interesting because of how he had 1 bad game against a lot of blitzing. Anderson, Chenault, or T. Higgins. I would say T. Higgins personally.
Yeah, I would too. It's got the highest upside.
Fournette or Robinson. That's totally line dependent because Fournette's going to be like one of the highest on backs on the slate. But I would still act Fournette. I think Hyde is active. I thought I saw Schefter say that. So I don't know. I'm not saying. I mean, it's so annoying.
Last few minutes here. We're ending it at 3 minutes.
Deontay, AJ Brown, Thielen, or Allen. Wow, that's loaded roster. I mean, okay. Similar to what I feel about Najee, Deontay Johnson is getting such elite target share you don't even realize because he's not on getting thrown to. But I think he is an absolute stud play every single week.
Yeah, I think Deontay's the consistency play if you need the floor, and then I'd argue AJ Brown's the high upside shot.
Yep, Keenan I like. I mean, yeah. Chubb and Chargers. I don't know. I mean. Anthony probably thinks he's the best player on the slate, but I don't know.
Chubb's a great FanDuel player every week. Every week, Chubb FanDuel.
Yeah, I mean, touchdown dependent. Yeah, I Myers or Chase? I'd lean Chase.
It depends for me. I'm gonna, if it's season long and it's full PPR, I'm gonna lean Myers and be a little hot takey just because he's the primary target share leader and they face the Texans.
Yeah.
And the O-line's all banged up, so they could go a little more pass heavy than they have. So I kind of want to see what Chase does with all the guys healthy also.
What else? Someone's asking us about wins. I'm a big loser. Yeah, CJ, sorry there's no Ben. You obviously didn't. You missed the right one. Don't worry about it. I missed Ben too. I think we might sub in Jack full time. Obviously trade Anthony away. That's easy trade.
Yay.
All right. We normally end with a bold call. Let's end with our bold calls. Who wants to go first? I think yeah, and let's get your bold call out of the way, and then we can move on to the good ones.
My bold call. Do you want me to stick with the Browns?
No, but I know that's what you want to do. So.
Okay, from a DFS angle, I do think Kareem Hunt is an extremely good play. DFS angle, not biased, just because there's a lot of guys priced around his price tag, and I think he can do the same thing, if not much more. So, I mean, it's a good leverage play. Jack, what's your bold call today? Can be anything.
I think the Cowboys defense is going to end up as a top 5 DST on the week in season long and DFS, because I actually highlighted them in my article, but their turnover numbers, their sack numbers are great. And we all know that Daniel Jones takes a lot of sacks at the minimum. He hasn't been as turnover prone, but I'm not betting on that just going away. So I think Cowboys are a top 5 DST this week.
I'm just going to stick with what I've been hammering all week, and it's going to be wrong. I think Mike Gesicki catches 2 touchdowns and goes for at least 75 yards.
Love it.
I like that. I'm playing a lot of Gesicki this week.
Might catch 3 touchdowns.
Well, thanks for joining, everybody. Good luck. You got a couple hours till lock. I'm sure if you need any other news and nuggets, you can hop in our Discord chat, access that at dfskarma.com. It was fun, guys. I mean, this is the first year of me doing it. I'll be on again, even though Sam wants to get me off. But it's fun having the top props tool, the live odds, the trends, and the projections portal in front of me. I mean, it's the last few years we haven't had all this. We got a lot going on at both websites. Give it check it out. I highly encourage it. There's enough free stuff on there for you freeloaders that you can enjoy a lot of the products, and you'll start learning how to use them. All right, until next week, guys, good luck, and we'll see you then.